Hey folks, welcome back to The Addicted Bookworm, where my addiction is all over the internet. On this channel, I do book hauls, book reviews, both digital and physical media, audiobooks, and so much more. Alright, so if you like this content, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. It helps my channel grow. And on this last video for the day, we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court hearing the case about the LGBT books that parents do not want their children to be exposed to. That's the crux of it. That's the sum of it. So one of the weirdest things when you listen to the audio of these things, no matter what it is, no matter what case it is, you don't really know who is for the defendant and who is for the people that are being sued. We don't know until we actually hear their voice and see a face to it. So I was listening to this, I'm like, is the gentleman for the school or against the parents, or is the woman for the school or against the parents? I mean, for the school or for the parents. And found out actually it was the guy who is for the parents and the woman is for the school. And this is my biggest agitation listening to these things. When people interrupt what the justices are trying to ask them. I don't care what case it is. Every time I listen to one, it's always these idiots that they continue on and they try to go over the justice's voice like, oh yeah, I'm a big dude here, I have a right to talk, you need to listen, little lady. I can't stand that. I cannot stand that. So now that I know the dude is for the parents and the lady is for the school, I kind of want to talk about this. And I've mentioned this over and over again, but we're going to talk about the contents of this case. So for people that don't know, I don't know how you don't know, but if you don't know, here it goes. So the Maryland County Public Schools had at one time an opt-out for inclusive books, like, mommy and daddy don't need to listen to these books, and I have to listen to my parents, and I can't listen to it. So they apparently had so many children that was opting out. Now, this is not the children that are opting out. It is the parents that are opting their children out. So you have parents that are opting their kids out of this inclusive lessons for whatever. And apparently the number of opt-outs, this is the word of the school. I wasn't there. I don't know. I didn't see the paperwork. But they are claiming that so many students left these lessons that it disrupted the thing. And here's the kicker, and this is what I know of children's ability to practice their religion in school. And no, people, God was not taken out of school, despite what people like my mother believed. If it is not disruptive, you can do it, but you have to do it in a way where it's not disruptive. So that means God was not taken out of school. So apparently it got to the point where it was disruptive, and they said no opt-out. You have to listen. You gotta listen. You gotta listen to about the puppy at the pride parade. So parents who felt like that their religious rights were being violated, not the religious rights of their children, but their religious rights, was like, my religious rights, not the religious rights of my children, are being violated, so I'm suing. And there's a difference. There's a difference between, if a child feels like that their religious beliefs are being violated. And yes, children are old enough to realize when their religious rights are being violated, compared to the religious rights of the parents that. So I'm listening to this, and they were talking about that there's nothing in the appellate court decision that stated that there was any proof that the teachers were actually reading from the books, or something like that. I'm trying to remember exactly what was said. The appellate court said. So, so it was argued that, basically, you know, he was trying to argue that religion, when the justice wanted an answer to her question about what the appellate court said, which I don't know why he would be against that. And here's the thing I get from like when you have an attorney that's for the parents, they know what these appellate courts said. They get a copy of the decision, and what they do is they deflect. When you have a question given to you, and you got the cheat sheet, and you are supposed to answer it like this: yes, the appellate court was right that there is no proof that these students were read to with these books, or something to that effect. No, he deflects it to like religion and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, they're only doing this. They're bringing up religion over and over again when I'm listening to what's being said. And I'm like, okay, why can't you just answer her question? Is it because you know that deflecting what is being said will make you more endearing to the conservative justices? I mean, why can't you just answer the question that you have the answer to right in front of you? I mean, I don't understand why you can't answer that question. The appeal court wrote this damn thing down on the piece of paper that costs a tree, and you can't even agree that the appellate court was right. I don't understand that concept. If the appellate court is right about what they put down on that paper that cost a tree its life, then why in the world can't you say, oh yeah, the appellate court's correct? Why do you have to deflect? Why do you have to constantly bring up indoctrination? This is the type of language that is used to remove books on like the Holocaust, or on sex ed books and all that type of stuff. This is the same nasty language. This is what parental rights people use to tell other parents what books that they can allow their own children to read. So I didn't listen to all of it. It's like nearly 4 hours long. That's a long time. I don't have enough patience for that. But what I am getting the impression of is that there is a much more deeper meaning to this than just, oh, my child who I believe have the same religious rights or religious beliefs I do, shouldn't have to listen about a puppy in a pride who got lost in a pride parade, or the fact is, how these people are going to build this as, or frame this as, is that yes, the Supreme Court is saying that sexually inappropriate material, even if there's no sex involved, even if there's no kissing or whatever, needs to be taken out of our schools, because I feel like that when you got a receptive ear, and there's 6 of them, 6 little receptive ears, that if you can frame it successfully as a religious argument that, oh, they're attacking us based on our religion and all that type of stuff, that you can start just taking stuff away from people that don't believe the same way that the defendants believed. And now the option they have, and this is what NBC says, that the Supreme Court can take it back down to the lower court to make a final decision, and that would ensure that they're not responsible for, well, for all the shit that's going to happen afterwards. And then if the lower court says, no, no, you can't have an opt-out because it's disruptive to the learning environment, then that's the end of it. Now, the thing about it is that these parental rights people, also known as dictate what other people can read, they love the idea that a bookcase is going before the Supreme Court. They love it. They want to have a freaking ticket to dictate what every man, woman, and child can read. And it's really weird, is when I say it, it has a weird habit of actually happening. And that is scary. I feel like I'm a Simpsons episode or something. But literally, just because the defendants say they don't want these books removed from the classroom, does not mean that is not going to happen. And what can most likely happen is, if they lose at the Supreme Court, then what can happen is, the next election cycle, you'll get a bunch of freaking Moms for Liberty to come in there and start ripping out every single book, so that nobody can read whatever the fuck they want to read. And that is exactly, I mean, they paint, even the justices are like, they had no problem with the books, but it's like, these are grown-ass people that had no problem with the books and everything. But, we'll see what happens in 2 months, and everything. I really hope and pray that they side with the school district, because here's the thing, and I'm going to be very blunt about this. So, I think it was, I forgot, I don't know if it was the guy or the bitch. No. It was the bastard and the woman. Sorry about that. The woman's representing the school district. Sorry. So one of the arguments that was made is that that school boards, or like schools, are supposed to make sure that students don't accidentally come upon these books. I really hope... take back. It was the bastard that said that. Not the lady. The bastard that said that. Was basically saying that it is the school's responsibility to make sure that students did not come across these books in the library. And I'm going to give a little bit of a go back into the annuals of time by saying this. When I was in high school, when I was in elementary school, middle school, or especially in middle school, when I was in 6th grade, God, I feel old, I went to this really beautiful school that had, well, the students weren't beautiful. Some students were way too sexually advanced for my taste. I went into this library, and it was a beautiful building with all these books. Not as many books as we got now, if you've seen a lot of more modern libraries. So a lot of titles that we have today were not there because they had not yet been published, or the author had not yet been born. And so librarians didn't monitor what children were pulling out of their shelves. Now, they got a little ticked off when you didn't put it back, but they come to the conclusion that's part of their job. But I remember reading, like, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet and Antony and Cleopatra, and I remember at 16, I read my first hot blood book, which my mother fully supported me reading. I've seen a lot. So here's the thing about it is librarians are not going to constantly be checking to make sure that students are pulling out the right kind of book. They allow students to wander the shelves and discover their new friend. And I I can bet you that these students that are at the center of this lawsuit to keep to basically to not have to listen to anything that has LGBT people in it, I I can bet you they know they exist. I can bet you they know they are real, and they have probably read books that their parents probably do not want them to read. And no librarian is going to rat a child out to mommy and daddy. Oh, by the way, your child was reading this book. Only no, they don't. They don't. They don't rat children out because they realize that maybe the child is feeling something, or like say for instance, they might be interested in religion, and they've got atheist parents that are like, no, militant anti-theists. Let's be clear on the difference. And they want to learn about religion, but their militant anti-theist parents, all they've said about them is that we don't talk about religion in this house because religion is evil and bad. And so they want to know what is so wrong about religion. So they go to the library where there's books on religion, they pull out, and they will start reading, and then they, have a moment that transcends time, space, and distance. And they will use the library as a way of reading books that mommy and daddy doesn't want them to read. That is what they will do, and they will trust that the librarian won't tell their parents what they're reading. Just because it is your sincerely held beliefs doesn't mean that all the time it is your child's sincerely held beliefs. And I think that should be something that should be just as important in these cases is, does your child object to these kinds of books? Does your child object to this or to that? I have had several classmates complain when they know their parents are not around. Oh, I wish I could dissect. I can't believe that I'm exempt from dissecting an animal. How am I supposed to know about the world if I'm not allowed to dissect it? And they talk about this stuff when their parents are not around. They complain wholeheartedly about how suffocating their parents are. They bitch about their parents in front of their classmates because they know their classmates won't go to their parents to tell. So just because it's your sincerely held religious beliefs doesn't mean it's your child's. And while I'm a firm believer in First Amendment rights because it encompasses religion and press and speech and all this stuff, don't think that your children aren't talking about you and how suffocating you are. Because they are. They talk shit about their parents. I talk shit about my mama. Especially only when I was right. Only when I was right, which was about 25% of the time. But yeah, and it's like, and here's the thing. I hate cutting off mid-sentence. Here's the thing. You can go and you can spout out all these court cases all you want, but if a child does not believe that, those court cases means shit. They don't care if mommy and daddy's against a puppy parade. If they believe in certain people having rights, or they want to read books about gay, lesbian, transgender people, they're going to go to the public library and they're going to read about that stuff, or they're going to go on their phone, the phone that your parents let them have, and they're going to look up on LGBT people and who they are and everything. You cannot keep this stuff away from your kids, and to argue that you're protecting them is is not getting them ready for the real world, because in the real world there are gay people. In the real world there are atheists, there's Christians, there's Jewish people, there's people with disabilities, there's people that are taking care of their parents at home. This is the real world. There's poor people, there's middle class people, there's rich people. All these different kinds of people, they exist. And it's one of those big facts of life. So yeah, while it's important to protect children from stuff that can harm them mentally, like keeping them away from pornography. I mean, actual pornography, not what people think is pornography. Things like that. That stuff is important. But we also have to understand that in this day and age, children know stuff that we never thought they would ever know. And as I said, you can't shelter them forever. They're going to find out about this stuff on their own, and sometimes in not a very healthy way. So we'll see what the Supreme Court says in June, and hopefully it will be on the side of common sense, because that's not so common anymore. But yeah, and also something else is I want to add to this before I stop this video. I think this is just another way of trying to weaken PICO, because if you go and you win and they remove books that, like, say for instance, the school board decides after losing they're going to take away all the books that these religious people are against, that takes the books away from other people and other students, and especially parents that may want their kids to read those kinds of books. So we really have to look at it that way. But then again, court cases don't care about the other groups of people that are affected by what she just did. All right, I will see you guys around.